good morning to this webinar about co-benefits of circular economy in the Nordics, a great opportunity to gear up sustainable business models. So this is a launch of a report and a discussion about co-benefits in the circular economy. And we that are arranging this is the Haga Initiative, the business network in Sweden. And we're doing this in a Nordic project, Climate Neutral Nordics. And we're doing this together with CLC in Finland and Skift in Norway. And we are financed by the Nordic Council of Ministers. We can take the next picture. And this is the Haga Initiative and the companies that are members of the Haga Initiative. And we have a strategy to stay below 1.5 degrees. We can take the next slide. We will present the report about co-benefits, and then we will have reflections from a fantastic panel, and then we will have a wrap-up. We can take the next slide. Yes, and we have done a report earlier this year, and this is our new report. And we have chosen to look at co-benefits because of several reasons. Circular economy is much more than only material streams. It has benefits for the economy, environment, biodiversity, health, and other social aspects as job creation. Second, it's not a question just for environmentalists. It's a question for the whole society. And by us looking at the benefits of the economics, this should be of high interest for the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Enterprise, etc. And third, this is also something policymakers can use in their communication with citizens to promote a more circular behavior. It's not just a matter of recycling. It can also bring benefits to better economy in the municipality and biodiversity. Next slide, please. So this is the participants. My name is Nina Ekelund. I usually forget to say what my name is. And I'm the executive director of the Haga Initiative. And I have a colleague with me, Josefina Schiljer. And then we have Elin Bergman, who is the chief operating officer at CradleNet. And Thomas Kåberger, chair of the Swedish delegation for circular economy. And we have Nils Pårup Petersen, who is the member of the Swedish Parliament, the Swedish Riksdag from the Center Party, and Elin Söderberg, who is the member of the Committee of Industry and Trade at the Swedish Riksdag, the Swedish Parliament, from the Green Party. You are so welcome all. Thank you for joining us. And thank you all that are joining this webinar. We can take the next slide. So let us present the report. I hand over to you, Josefina.
Thank you so much, Nina. This report that will be published on our website today aims to highlight co-benefits of circular economy. And I thought I'd walk you through some of our main findings, starting with economic growth. And as you can see here from our slide, that today only 6% of the Nordic economy is circular. And that means we have a potential of increasing it to 94%. Because 94% of resources consumed in the economy are derived from virgin material resources. And this means also, this only 6% means that Nordic countries have been under the European average for some time, at least I think the past 4 years. So we can please change the slide. And this graph is something I wanted to show you. The estimated economic opportunity presented by circular economy in the Nordic region by 2030 is substantial. In 2021, the circular economy contributed approximately 21 billion euros in gross value in the Nordic economy. And assuming a consistent growth trajectory, this figure is projected to reach approximately 25 billion per year in 2030. And if Nordic countries were to double the circularity levels in line with EU ambitions, the circular economy could contribute an additional 24 billion in gross value by 2030, and then reaching a total annual gross value of around 48 billion. And this amount is about, roughly 3% of the Nordic GDP in 2021. Instead of around then 1.5%. And we can please change the slide. Also, circular economy can reduce emissions. In terms of material consumption in Nordic countries, each person utilizes approximately 23 tons, which only about 1.4 metric tons is sourced from secondary materials. And this clearly shows the predominance of virgin resources in an overall material consumption. And this is higher than the EU average volume, which is about 14 metric tons per person. And in the Nordic region, improved circularity holds then potential to significantly reduce CO2 emissions. Next slide, please. So continuing with the reducing of emissions, Sweden's circularity is about 3.4%, and this is slightly below global average. And these numbers come from the Circular Gap report for 2022. So we can see here potential, of course, of further reductions of CO2 emissions, potentially as high as 66% decrease. And implementing strategies to enhance energy efficiency could, for example, be organizing manufacturing along the principle of materially efficient circular economy, replacing half of virgin materials with secondary materials, or doubling the lifespan of durable consumer products. So next slide, please. Yes. And there is also, as Nina mentioned, of course, other co-benefits. I'm thinking here about job creation. So, I mean, and you could, of course, think of, social aspects such as job creation, improvement of health, etc. And studies show that the Nordic region could gain as many as 190,000 new job opportunities by taking different measures as regards circular economy. And I also wanted to mention, well, I should also mention that these numbers, they have been derived in different ways and different scenarios, but nevertheless, the socioeconomic gains in the Nordic region stand to make by switching to a circular economy. There's also other benefits, of course. I'm thinking here about the halt or reverse of biodiversity loss. And a rapid transition to a circular economy could halt biodiversity loss and start the process of biodiversity recovery. Assuming that no other action is taken globally. But it can also, circular economy can also be halted and partly reversed through policy and business-led interventions and help mitigate climate change. And although these projections are global and maybe not specific for the Nordic region, the same logic applies. And this also makes a great opportunity for Nordic countries to be a good example globally. So these are some of our main findings, and we can take the next slide regarding examples. We have, in our report, we have presented 3 examples, and I wanted to show you the case of Farm Kärrbo Prästgård, they have a fossil-free energy supply by developing a small-scale advanced photovoltaic plant, meaning that both energy and heat production is provided for all facilities of the farm. They also have cattle grazing on the same land, and they are then self-sufficient in energy and an energy supplier to society
Could you change
as a whole.
picture, please?
Okay, maybe we're in the old
Yes,
slide
we
here.
just need the next slide. So,
Okay, thank you, Nina.
so
Thank you.
it seemed to be stuck here. So please continue, Josefina. Sorry for interrupting you. But we could change slide till if you hear me. Thank you. So
Thank you,
Josefina, now
Tilde.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So this is one of our 3 examples, and there's, of course, many more good examples of co-benefits. And this report, in this report, we present 4 recommendations. One being the creation of a Nordic circular economy database, and this is in order to identify co-benefits for increasing circularity in the decision-making of policymakers and of Nordic businesses. But we suggest the creation of a Nordic circular economy database.
Next picture, please.
Yes, please. And our second recommendation would be to incentivize sharing knowledge and data between stakeholders around identified co-benefits of circular economy in the Nordics, and also bring forward methods for quantifying them. Our third recommendation would be considering co-benefits in public procurement. And this is, I think, a recommendation where there is a lot to do. We suggest that a practice of benchmarking procurement processes is developed against circular alternatives by considering co-benefits. And our fourth recommendation would be to designate a permanent coordinator to strengthen circular business solutions and promoting their co-benefits in the Nordic countries. And here we have a great example, for example, in the northern part of Sweden, where we have a special coordinator designated by the government for green transition and businesses. So I think I'll wrap up here.
Thank you, Josefina. And I think in the report we have a sharper writing in number 3, considering I think everyone should think on use circular economy and look at the co-benefits when you look at the public procurement. You really need to sharpen what we look at there. And also, I just want to mention, you can see the last one here, Josefina, you disappeared. Designated permanent coordinator for circular business solutions, looking at co-benefits. It's something that we have. We have coordinators in Sweden. I don't know how it is in other Nordic countries, but this was a suggestion from our side. Do you know if you've seen it in other countries?
I think this is actually a global trend. You could definitely see it in other EU countries, maybe more popular in Sweden. I don't know, but yeah, this is something that's also used in the UN system, I think.
Thank you. Thank you, Josefina. Let's just take the next picture, and then we'll stop sharing here. We have 4 participants for the discussion about co-benefits. So Elin Söderberg, the Green Party, Nils Porup from the Center Party, Thomas Kåberger from the Swedish Delegation for Circular Economy, and Elin Bergman from CradleNet. So we can stop sharing the slides. And I want to start asking Thomas Kåberger from the delegation. What about co-benefits? What is your response on and your reflections on co-benefits and circular economy?
Well, one question is what is the main benefit? And to many, the idea of better efficiency in material utilization is similar to improved energy efficiency, that as soon as you've done it, it becomes almost impossible to explain why you didn't do it before. So it's very much a matter of discovering the opportunities. The recycling already occurring is very high, for example, in the reuse of metals in society. Most of the copper and gold and metals like that has ever been mined is still in use. And that is because we have developed a tradition of recycling a lot of these materials. Then there is, of course, a scale with reuses, and repair are also very important to manage materials efficiently. So this is not as simple as it may seem, and I can also challenge some of these measures that you use with the percentage of recycling, because that depends very much on what you include. Is carbon included, for example? We are now in the delegation, when we are talking about what may become relevant, we look a lot at the importance of intelligent designers who are, when designing products today, thinking of how these products in the end will be possible to recycle the material content of, and that is now extremely important in the build-up of the new infrastructure, such as electric vehicles and batteries and a lot of the equipment connected to electrification. This will be of immense importance. Carbon, if we are really seriously considering how the world will look when you have replaced all fossil fuels, will be possibly a scarce element in the economy. We need to manage carbon flows with much more care than we have done when we have had a continuous influx of fossil fuels in society. So there are. This is really an interesting area for in this period of restructuring of society. And of course, you mentioned a lot of co-benefits, that you will have less pollution if you really manage the substances so they do not end up in the atmosphere or soil or water as pollutants. There will be opportunities for employing people in recycling. I'm not sure that is really a co-benefit, because I don't think working is something really to look for. I think we have a lot of things to do anyway. So economically, it might be better if we can avoid spending a lot of work doing the recycling, rather try to rely on intelligent design and intelligent systems rather than putting a lot of labor into it. But indeed, acknowledging and noticing all these important co-benefits that are, as you mentioned, related to less pollutants, less transport might be a great advantage if you do it properly, and a lot of other environmental benefits. So try to look for those.
Yeah.
I think labor is a great co-benefit.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. And I just want to ask you, isn't it looking at the labor question, isn't it looking at also the, if you see the steps, like probably in the first run, there will be probably a lot of new jobs, but in the end, if you have designed it right, it will probably be less. Isn't that?
Yeah, hopefully.
Right?
Yeah.
Hopefully, yes. Elin, I move over to you. Your reflections on co-benefits.
And which Elin are you talking to right now?
Elin Bergman, sorry.
Yes. Okay, good. Yeah, first of all, I have to say congratulations to a great report. I think this is something that many should have done a long time ago. I'm always talking about the co-benefits of circular economy, but it's always good to have like a new, fresh report with the latest data. So very big congratulations. I think it's so good. Well, I think you kind of capture the things that I've been saying a lot, so that's why I like it so much, maybe. But one of the things that it kind of maybe could be a complication, not for me, maybe, but it's you speak about the co-benefit. Number one is economic growth. And that's always something that's kind of complicated to talk about right now, because is economic growth always good? So that's another discussion. You can have another seminar about that. But yeah, I think it's very good to talk to companies and politicians about the amount of money we can actually generate and save by transitioning into a circular economy. It's not about just make sure we have enough materials, but it actually is very good for the economy. The other thing, which is, I think it's also, for many people in circular economy, it's obvious that it's very good for climate impact and environmental impact as well. And I'm especially happy that you're mentioning biodiversity as well, not only carbon, because it's not only about saving a lot of climate emissions, but also we have a biodiversity crisis going on. So that's very important as well. And I'm also very happy that you can mention, like Thomas said, energy efficiency. We just wrote a debate article about that, because there was a report coming out in February from Danfoss saying that we're kind of wasting away like half of the energy produced from wasted heat from industries and buildings and so on. So I think it's very important to focus on that as well. And the last thing, job creation, it's so good, because this is what I've been saying the whole time. We're going to create so many new jobs. Yes, a lot of jobs will disappear in the fossil economy when it's gone, but we will generate so many new jobs in the circular economy. So it's actually better. So yeah, very good.
And Elena, just a follow up, the perspective we're talking about co-benefits in the circular economy. You mentioned you've been talking about it, but
no, it's not talked about enough. We should talk about this so much more. This is why I love the report so much, because it needs to be higher up on the agenda. And when I talk to politicians, it doesn't matter in which country, and when I talk about this, they're like, oh my God, why is nobody talking about this? So we need to talk about this more, and we need to remind them. We need to keep reminding them. So we should do this report every year.
Okay, every year. Thank you for that, Elena. And Thomas, is this a new perspective of talking about co-benefits in the circular economy? Thomas Kåberger.
No, I don't think it's new. I think it's a bit difficult to define, but anyone who's interested in developing new circular systems must look for all the benefits and, of course, weigh that against all the cost. But if you don't want to succeed, you will look at all the cost, but only the recycling itself. But if you look at co-benefits at the same time, if you try to identify them, it will be much easier to justify these measures. So therefore, it's very important to have this concept included whenever you discuss a more circular system. Similar with energy efficiency. If you want to do energy efficiency, look for all the co-benefits.
Yeah.
Or insulated windows are also reducing noise, for example. Look for all these things if you really want to be successful.
Yeah, great perspective. Thank you, Thomas. So let's move over to our politicians, and we'll start with Elin Söderberg from the Green Party. So what is your perspective of co-benefits in the circular economy, Elin Söderberg?
Thank you, and thank you for this report. And excuse my voice, I have a cold, but hopefully I will manage this entire meeting. I find this report very interesting, and as I've seen reports on co-benefits when it comes to energy efficiency, or when it comes to climate change mitigation, and also when it comes to circular economy. And I always find these very important, because mainly due to the importance of having a broader backup of having to do this change in society, and different organizations, roles, politicians are interested in different parts of all these co-benefits. So I think it's an important tool communicating the shift towards a circular economy, to have knowledge about all these co-benefits. And I find that when the Green Party were in government, we implemented a strategy on circular economy and an action plan on circular economy, and found a specific value change that we wanted to focus on. And I noticed that it is an importance to have political decisions and a political interested in making this shift for it to actually happen. Because we are, as always, we are used to doing things the way we are used to doing them. And to make a shift in something, create new business models, create new ways of procurement, etc. We need to have a strive to make this change. And political goals and strategies and action plans, both on national, regional, or local levels, are an important tool to make this happen. And within those processes, the knowledge of co-benefits are very valuable.
Thank you, Elin. We'll come back to talk more about policy in a few minutes. So Nils Korup Petersen from the Center Party. So what is your reflections on co-benefits in the circular economy?
Well, it's been a great pleasure listening to both the report and to the wise people before me. What I like is that you've been able to combine the economy, the CO2, minimizing CO2, and the social benefits, because normally in politics, it's always so like you have to choose either. It's very nice for once to actually have all three in one. And when we come to biodiversity and also local pollution, there is benefits as well, which is wonderful, of course. But one thing that I would like to focus on is that when it comes to procurement, especially from the Swedish perspective, I think that we've actually made it more difficult in Sweden than we actually have to, because the European Union rules that sets the limits for us are actually more beneficial, makes it easier to take local decisions, etc. So you can, as a municipality, for instance, you have a better possibility to actually see what is available locally that is living up to, for instance, the demands when it comes to biodiversity, or if it comes to other parts of the circular economy. Whereas we've put a lot of rules that makes it very hard for a lot of companies that are new or that are in the front line to actually come into the procurement sections in the municipalities, regions, etc., which means that we make it harder to change the economy, to change technologies than they have to be. So that's something that we really should simplify in Sweden. And as I said, we have made it harder than it has to be according to the EU rules. Then, of course, we have a problem as well that when it comes to some part of the circular economy, for instance, repairs, etc., we've actually made it more expensive the last couple of years in Sweden. And when I say we, it's not us. But as a government, as a country, we've made it more expensive, which is the exact opposite way of what you're showing us is possible and how we should proceed. So that's some of the takeaways anyway.
Thank you. So Elin Söderberg, if I continue with you, looking at the political discussion and how important is it to talk about co-benefits when we talk about circular economy as being in the storm of the political in the political debate? How important is it to talk about co-benefits?
I think it is important because you get the broader picture of the entire value of making the shift towards circular economy. But I also find it important to connect this to the need for political engagement to achieve all of these positive co-benefits. Because I found that there is one part in politics when it comes to prioritizing working towards climate change mitigation, biodiversity loss, halting that, and shift towards circular economy. But there's also a difference between parties when it comes to which role should the government or the political role take within this development. And if we notice that there is a need to have an active active politics who are engaged in shifting society towards more circular economy, then we also need to discuss this part of the challenge. So I find it's the co-benefits are very important, but we also have to, even though different parties can see that, oh, these are really good co-benefits, they can be passive about it and saying that this will probably happen by itself, and that's really good. Politics doesn't need to engage. Or you can see, oh, this is really good. Politics should engage. And I think you need to put these two parts together to make things happen.
Yeah, thank you. And Niels Porup Petersen, would you think that talking about co-benefits regarding circular economy will speed up the transition within circular economy?
Well, definitely. First of all, we, as we know, there are a few in Parliament who don't really believe in the basic idea that we have a climate crisis, etc. So, of course, it would be nice to show them that it's not necessarily a danger to the economy, etc. That you actually listen to science. So that is also always positive. And then, of course, it's always to be a politician is to balance different kinds of ideals and short-term, long-term benefits, etc. And that you can show that you can have, as we've managed before, that you can both lower emission and have a functioning economy is definitely a better way to persuade people to do it than to not be able to show that you can actually have a strong economy at the same time, because that is, of course, people are also short-sighted in many ways. We have to sort of like adapt to that reality. So, of course, it's incredibly important that we can show that you can do the right thing for the long term to make sure that we have nature, climate, etc., that is actually functioning and prospering. At the same time as we have an economy that makes sure that people have a food on their table and in this winter as well, able to pay for actually heating their homes.
Thank you. We'll come back to more policy discussion, but I want to ask Elin Bergman first. So in your organization in CradleNet, are you discussing co-benefits? And just looking at our report and in general, what is the most apparent co-benefit that you are talking about?
Well, yes, we do all the time, both in CradleNet and Nordic Circular Hotspot. And that's why we also started a Nordic Circular Hotspot, because we wanted to talk about these co-benefits also between the countries, not only, what the benefits we have in Sweden, but we can't just be circular by ourselves. We need to work across businesses and sectors and over the borders and everything. So yes, we do it all the time. Well, I wouldn't say we talk mostly about one specific benefit. I think we kind of do it in combination, but I think I remember when I became part of CradleNet and started talking about circular economy, I tried to avoid talking about how good it is for the environment, because the businesses they didn't even listen to me when I talked about that. So I mostly talked about saving money and actually generating money and also saving materials and energy efficiency and efficiency overall, resource efficiency and job creation. So that was what I talked about then, but now we can talk more and more about environmental and climate benefits, because now it's something that's more mandatory and everybody does. And now with CSRD and taxonomy within the EU, I think it's going to be more and more something you kind of evaluate a company of, how circular are they, how environmentally friendly are they? So it's more mature now. So now we talk about all the benefits.
Yes, and also looking at CSR, the Corporate Sustainable Reporting Directive, circular economy is something that you should report on. So that is really happening now. And Thomas, what is the most apparent co-benefit that you see and talk most about?
Well, it's hard to sort them, but I think that today in the European Union, one of the important issues is the independence of global supply chains for the continued operation of the industries that we have. and then a more closed loop recycling of some of the essential materials is going to get a lot of attention in Europe, because being dependent on a continuous inflow of materials to keep up the industrial activities is seen as an important vulnerability.
So reducing risks is one co-benefit that we didn't mention, so I'm glad that you mentioned it. But great, thank you. Let's just move over to a little bit of policy. So I would like to start with you, Thomas, again. What can policymakers do to unlock co-benefits of the circular economy?
I'm not sure if politics can unlock much. There are some legal restrictions on recycling that are seen as major barriers for Swedish companies that want to increase recycling of some materials. And in the delegation's deliberations last year, we said that we do want to open for more entrepreneurial activities in the recycling of byproducts and some of what is now called waste. But we also acknowledge that there are risks in this, and that is because involvement in the recycling and waste management industry is also providing opportunities for organized crime to make profits by dumping dangerous waste in nature, and also for money laundering, because the opportunities to earn money by clever management of waste and byproducts is also an opportunity to actually launder money that you have earned in other sectors, and you can pretend it's the profit of what may appear to be legal management of waste products. So we are saying we need more authority control, physical presence in this industry. We cannot trust the self-evaluation of different companies. But provided we get this management or this authority control of the industry, then we could have more entrepreneurial development of new systems of recycling. But this will be a tricky balance in the coming years, but a very important one to successfully develop more efficient circular systems in industry.
Can you see that risk also in other Nordic countries?
Of course, it's everywhere. It's global. It's global. It's not Swedish. It's global, and we see some countries where organized crime is a very large part of waste management, and that is not to the benefit of recycling and not to the benefit of the environment. So this is an area where we need to be very careful that we enjoy the benefits, but also that we do spend sufficient public resources to control that it is not made use of by organized crime.
Have you concrete incentives that you have handed over to the government in this field?
Well, we have said you must give this more attention, you must give it more resources. We haven't seen that result yet, but
is it on the table? Is it happening?
I think it's on the table. I think there is a public investigation in Sweden, which I'm not sure if it has been published or will soon be published, about environmental crime, where this is one part. But I believe that the difference between the traditional political culture in Sweden and what the delegation said in last year's report is that in the political culture, it's believed that if you just impose new legislation, that will have immediate effects. We are saying it's not the legislation that we are lacking, It's the actual authority control. Tillsyn, as we said. In the report.
Yes, yeah.
You must have
Tillsyn and
control
much be better. Yes.
Yeah.
Just a second, Nils. You will respond on this, but I just want to ask Elin first. So, looking at the political side, what kind of incentives is important, and what can we do to unlock the co-benefits of the circular economy? Elin Bergman.
Oh, okay. Well, I think this is the report is a very good way to do it. I mean, if we can have events like this where we showcase the benefits and we get them to actually read the report so they can comment about it, that's a very good strategy to do. And we do that all the time. So I think that's the best way. But I mean, in all honesty, there should be, better and more money and focus on this from the policy side. And I think that we probably coming to the recommendations you have eventually, but the idea that you have, I'm gonna kind of spoil the cliffhanger here, but what you said, you're going to designate or you recommend that you designate a Nordic circular economy coordinator to actually showcase the solutions and make sure everybody knows about the co-benefits. That's something that's actually very much needed, and that there should be circular economy delegations that have a lot of funding in all of the Nordic countries that can collaborate much more than we have currently. So I think it's good that we kind of come together and talk about this much more, what needs to be done. But in the meantime, we just do what we can do. So this report and events like this is a very good way to do it.
Thank you, Elin. Nils, please. I think you wanted to comment on what Thomas said about crime and
absolutely, and I think he has a very good point. We have this problem in a lot of welfare areas as well. And if you look at, for instance, the Italian mob, the waste management is a big part of their economy. I think it's the Colombian crime where avocados is a big part of their economy. So it's it's because as soon as you make it relatively simple, it's areas where the crime dynasties go in. So you have to have an enormous amount of control on this, and we have legislation that is applied on other areas regarding who's allowed to own, etc., that might be relevant on more areas perhaps. But I think the data area is very important as well, so we actually know what's happening with it, because if you have to take the waste management to the right facility in the end, the risk that you have middle hands that are not the right ones are a lot less. So you have to have data management all the way. But when it comes to the incentives, I think that what we see in Sweden, where we go the wrong way with the taxes, that actually makes it more expensive to do the right thing compared to the wrong thing. Of course, you have to have economic incentives that makes circular the right move for you financially, because if you make money on it, instead of it costing money, you will make it an easy decision for more people and more organizations. So that's incredibly important. Then, of course, we have legislation that makes, regarding procurement, for instance, that is incredibly important, that we make it easier to make, so like that you can test things, that you can try out, okay, we'll try this process, or we'll try this kind of merchandise instead of another one to take us in a more a circular direction. We have to make those kind of decisions easier than they are today.
Thank you. And Elin, your comments on what you had.
Super quick comment, but I just wanted to say.
I was thinking Elin said about it, but Elin Bergman, please.
Okay, can I just, super quick. I think the most important thing is to focus on that we're not gonna have waste in the future, because then we're gonna take care of the crime problem. So if we focus upstream instead of recycling and waste, we could take care of the problems. That was my only comment, sorry.
Yes, Elin Söderberg then.
Yes, thank you. I think that the main, I mean, for me and for the Green Party, who find the shift towards circular economy really, really important. It's an absolute importance for all of the Agenda 2030 sustainability goals. It has co-benefits when it comes to tackling climate change, biodiversity loss, but also while eradicating poverty and strengthening welfare and health globally, as well as all these like local benefits when within the Nordics or Sweden. For me, it's really like having all these extra knowledge about circular economy makes it possible to optimizing politics when it comes to how can we do the shift towards circular economy in a way that meets as many of our societal goals as possible at the same time, and handling like synergies and stuff like that. But I think one of the main part is like really getting more to a broader interest within politics to actually make this shift. That is, for me, the most challenging part. How do we get like voters and the other parties to really come together to make this happen? But when it comes to actually making it happen, I think Nils says it's clearly that the economic incentives, of course, should make the circular decision financially more interesting than the non-circular one. But we also need to do changes when it comes to legislation. We talked about the waste management legislation here earlier. I think there are things we need to do there. But also when it comes to strategy and leadership, political leadership, and then it comes into a lot of different things. And of course, authority control is one important part, but we have within a lot of agencies, national governmental agencies, you have different kind of things that all these agencies can do to together drive society towards a more circular economy. When it comes to procurement, when it comes to their own procurement and development, when it comes to planning within infrastructure, when it comes to planning within building, etc. So when it comes to actually making it happen, I think there are a lot of different big and small things you need to do within both economic incentives, legislation, and more like soft governance or governance in a broader perspective. But the big challenge is to actually have that interest within government to really work towards this shift. I feel that there are a lot of benefits, and there's a huge interest within companies, startups, big and small industries to actually strive towards circular economy. But in my point of view, this is nothing that will happen quickly by itself. It needs political engagement and interest to actually lead this development of society. And the most challenging part is to get the leadership in place. Yes.
Thank you, Elin. And I just want to mention in our report that we handed over to Romina Pourmokhtari, the Minister of Climate and Environment in Sweden, from the Haga Initiative. We had 9 areas, and political leadership, talking about that the incentives need to be long-term and ambitious. And just want to mention what Nils and Elin Söderberg both mentioned, is that importance of economic incentives. So that is one of our most important suggestions in that report. But I just want to come back to our 4 recommendations in this report, looking at what we can do to speed up the discussion about co-benefits. And one thing we have mentioned both in this report and our report that we came with in the spring was looking at the data, because it's so different inputs in when we compare countries. So we really can see that we need better data. So that was one of our suggestions. But I want to move to the last suggestion that we had. Designate a permanent coordinator for circular business solutions when you look at co-benefits. And just want to hear your response on that. Do we need a coordinator? Elin Bergman said we needed it. No one is. Yeah, please, Niels.
Why not? I think, but in the end, of course, it's the actual effect on the at the lowest level of everyday life that actually makes the difference. Whether it's the guy who actually, or the often woman who buys the things at the municipality or whatever it is. But of course, you need someone to actually push for change, and in that way, probably a coordinator can be a positive thing.
And we were thinking on Peter Larsson, who is the coordinator for the industry and the green transition in the northern Sweden, where we had the electrification and the steel industry, etc. So our thought was, if we can see what the potential you can have in different industry and connect different industries, rest products, that a rest product for one company could be a solution for another company. So to get them to meet and see what kind of potential to just gear up the green transition. So that was our thought when we started to think about this. A comment from Thomas about this?
I think this might be more difficult than the coordinators that have been appointed for other areas, because circular economy or whatever you actually would like to call it is rather complex, involving many different institutional settings, very different technologies, and requiring special knowledge in these different areas. And I think it's very difficult to find one person who actually would be able to constructively get involved in all the different challenges that this sector meets. Therefore, it's difficult. On the other hand, it may be a good way to feed back to the policymakers the challenges sometimes faced by constructive, ambitious actors that run into issues that has to do with legislation and regulation, where these need to be modified to allow for really desirable increased recycling or reuse of materials. So that it's not obvious, but it might be useful.
And Thomas, I agree with you because I can see there is special skills looking at the industry and special skills looking at agriculture, where they have a huge potential for circular economy. Yeah. And it's like two different persons. But could you have this kind of competence connected to that person or to that in a collaboration? It just doesn't need to be a person, but we do need to highlight this because there is still a lot of rest products and still a lot of potential that we don't talk about.
But I think the most important contribution that these coordinators have had is that they have been people with very long experience and good knowledge about how the public regulation and policy making and authorities work, who have been able to help the enthusiastic entrepreneurs with less experience of society to navigate in the existing legal system, but also had the role of feeding back to the policymakers where the current legislation is not up to date with the current industrial opportunities.
Yeah, good point, Thomas. Niels, please, a comment on this, and then Elin Söderberg. And then we're going to wrap up.
No, but definitely, I think absolutely what Kåberg has said is that a need for someone to actually take the problems that exist to the right level. At the moment, we have a lot of issues with the different kind of innovation areas, for instance, that they cannot coexist. They cannot be involved in several, that you cannot, if you do the same thing in Skåne as they're doing in Västra Götaland, another part of the country, you are not allowed to take these together and make it a bigger impact. You're not allowed to do that. So there's a lot of issues. And I think there's a Malmö company called Warm, for instance. There are other companies as well where they use the the rest heat from that is not warm enough to go into the heating systems that we normally do in Sweden, that is at the moment companies have to pay for to get rid of, or just evaporate into the air. They use that to, for instance, they're building one now in Frövi that is going to be a big, what is called, well, they're going to grow tomatoes equivalent of 10% of the Swedish need on all rest heat that is at the moment not used. And there's been so many issues for such a company because they live in a mixed area. And if they want to use the rest products to also feed fish, they would love to do that. But since fish is it's fish on land, it's both agricultural and it's also a industry related to the seas. So they have stacked legislation instead of having it easier. It's twice as difficult. So there are so many issues when it comes to cooperating on doing new circular innovation in Sweden. So yeah, someone who can actually tell at the highest level, on the ministerial level, that these are the issues to be solved is probably one of the most important things.
Thank you, Nils. And Elin Söderberg.
Yes, thank you. I think coordination is essential, but I think it can be discussed whether one new national coordinator is the most efficient way. As Thomas Koberger mentioned, this is a very, very diverse area with a lot of different companies and a lot of different challenges. But there are coordinators already in place in society that should really work with circular economy more. So we have had counted administrative boards who already have coordinators working with climate change mitigation and energy, the shift in energy, and I know that circular economy has been a natural part of their job because that is part of working with energy efficiency and is also a part of working with climate change mitigation. So knowledge about circular economy can improve work with both energy efficiency and energy transition and also climate change mitigation. And then you can also have these discuss all these co-benefits on a more like local and regional level. You also have like energy and climate advisors on the municipal level who could incorporate circular economy. And we also already have the national coordinator for climate change, Fossil-Free Sweden, who can also, of course, incorporate circular economy more, discussing all the different branches path towards mitigating greenhouse gas emissions, and so I think coordination of circular economy in Sweden or the Nordics, but in Sweden this is my field, can be improved a lot. And when it comes to one of the issues mentioned here, when it comes to finding one company, business to business circular economy, when you have business opportunities, but you have maybe someone to be a matchmaker. I think this is interesting if there's already an actor who could play that part, or if there's something that we should add to really enhance the possibility of doing business to business circular economy, because I want all businesses, of course, to be safe with their when it comes to their own business case going into new models.
Thank you, Elin. And we need to wrap up. And I just want to ask my colleague, Josefina, what do you bring with you? You just have 10 seconds to say it.
Oh, yes, 10 seconds. Okay. Wow. Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for your valuable comments and input. And maybe we should have interviewed you all before launching the report, because we've got so many interesting thoughts. I thought a lot of them were very, very inspiring. So this is definitely something that we will take with us.
Thank you, all of you, and thank you all that have been listening to this webinar. I hope you have a lovely day, all of you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.